Hey everyone, you're watching We Had That, and today I'm going to talk about my top 10 favorite Christmas gifts that I got as a kid. I've been looking at old photo albums, thinking about some of the Christmases that I had when I was young, and how those were some of the best memories I have. Hanging out with the family that we only got to see at holidays, good food, and definitely my childhood dog. Plus, some of the coolest toys ever. So why not make a list of the 10 best Christmas gifts I received as a kid? I hope you enjoy this trip down memory lane despite the blurry photos. Number 10, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons action figures. I was a fan of the sword and sorcery genre already, so when they made action figures for Advanced D&D, I was excited. One Christmas, I got a bunch of the figures and even the Fortress of Fangs playset. Even though I was only into the figures for a short time compared to some of my other toys, on that Christmas day, I thought they were amazing. Number 9, the Thunder Tank. This was a remote-controlled tank with the remote connected to the tank by a cord. My father was a tank commander in the Army, so I think that was part of the reason I got this as a gift, and definitely part of why it's on my list. If you're not familiar with the Thunder Tank, apparently neither is the internet. I couldn't find a single thing about this toy online. If you know anything about it, please leave a comment. Number 8, Gabriel's Legend of the Lone Ranger action figures. When I was a kid, we would listen to the old 1930s Lone Ranger radio show while my family made the long drive to visit my grandmother in South Carolina. When the Legend of the Lone Ranger movie came out in 1981, Gabriel released a small series of 3 3/4 inch action figures. The Lone Ranger, Tonto, Butch Cavendish, and their horses were waiting for me one Christmas morning. I'm not sure it was even that year that the figures came out. They may have been a gift simply because they were found in the discount bins when my parents were shopping for gifts that year. Either way, I thought they were cool figures and I played with them along with figures from other toy lines after I had lost interest in the Lone Ranger series. Number 7, the G.I. Joe Mobat Tank. I loved G.I. Joe as a kid, and there were several years where G.I. Joe toys were the main gifts that I received. But the tank stands out for a few reasons. As I mentioned before, my father was a tank commander in the Army, so he was always a little more interested in tank gifts. Also, the figure that came with the tank, Steeler, was my first swivel arm battle grip figure. At the time, I thought only Steeler was made with this feature, and I thought it was awesome. He drove the tank, he had swivel arm battle grip. Clearly, he must be the leader of G.I. Joe, right? Number 6, 8-inch MEGO Superheroes. I'm sorry for the blurry photo here, but this was one of my first Christmases, and this is the only photo I can find of my first MEGOs. I actually still have that Captain America figure. I only had a handful of the 8-inch MEGOs as a kid, but I would constantly see the ads for them in old used comic books that I would pick up, and it made me want to collect them all. When I discovered eBay, MEGOs were the first toys I started trying to track down, and eventually I was able to pick up most of the superheroes, and these are still some of my favorite action figures ever. Number 5, the Sears exclusive cardboard Star Wars Cantina with 4 aliens, including the blue Snaggletooth. The only reason this isn't higher up on my list is because I was too young at the time to remember actually getting this. I remember having the figures, they were awesome. I was confused by the red Snaggletooth that I would see in the stores. The blue Snaggletooth seemed like the cooler figure to me, so I wondered what happened to him. I loved these figures, so I'm sure it was awesome getting this set for Christmas. I wish there were photos from that day, but at least I still have my 4 original figures. Number 4, Remco's 8-inch Universal Monsters and the Monsterizer. Although I was way more into the 3 3/4 inch action figures as a kid, the Remco 8-inch monsters were still very cool. But the real highlight of this line was the Monsterizer. Here's a photo of my father putting the stickers on my Monsterizer. He still tells me stories of watching the old Universal Monster movies when he was a kid, so I'm sure I got this gift partly because he thought it was cool. That Monsterizer is one of the gifts on this list that I really wish I still had. What a cool line of toys. Number 3, the G.I. Joe Cobra C.L.A.W. Even as early as Wave 3, there were a lot of vehicles in the G.I. Joe line. For the most part, I preferred to play with the figures by themselves, but there were a few vehicles that stood out as awesome, and the Claw was one of them. This photo is zoomed way in so that you can see the claw that I'm holding. I know, it's pretty terrible, but there it is. I liked this vehicle right away, but Hasbro wasn't taking any chances. They had commercials for it, included it in a cartoon, and even put it on the cover of the comic books. They didn't need to do any of that stuff to sell me on the claw. I loved it from day one. Number 2, Star Wars Empire Strikes Back Hoth Stormtroopers. As a kid, I loved the scenes in The Empire Strikes Back that took place on the planet Hoth. I wanted a bunch of Hoth Rebel soldiers and a bunch of Hoth Stormtroopers so that I could have a huge Hoth battle in my living room. I only ever had 2 Hoth Rebel soldiers, and the Christmas they came out, I got 3 Hoth Stormtroopers. But for some reason, I guess it was the next Christmas, my father decided to get me several more Hoth Stormtroopers. Maybe they were on sale or something. It was awesome. I finally had an army of bad guys for my rebels to fight. These photos were taken about a year or 2 ago, but I wish I had photos from that second Christmas when I set up all of those Hoth Stormtroopers in the family living room. It was amazing. And my number 1 Christmas gift of all time has got to be the Atari 2600. I had wanted one for years before that magical Christmas day. My friends got them when they first came out, and I remember playing Pac-Man for hours at my friend's house. The year I finally got my own Atari, I literally could not sleep that Christmas Eve. I suspected that I was going to get that as a gift the next morning, and I just stayed awake the whole night. Even though I had a lot of cool toys as a kid, I was more excited to get that Atari than any other gift I can remember. The whole family seemed to enjoy playing Combat on Christmas Day. Well, maybe not my mom so much, but even my father got into it. His favorite game was Missile Command, and I remember one night he stayed up all night playing a single game. He told me that he still had a couple of cities left when he had to stop playing to get ready for work. That was very out of character for my father, and one of my favorite memories of him. Because Nintendo was the new big thing, I was able to get Atari cartridges from the bargain bin at KB Toys for cheap, so I had a bunch of them. That Atari 2600 rocked. This year, all I want for Christmas is for you to subscribe to my channel. And if you're in the giving spirit, how about giving this video a like? And seriously, I would love to hear from you. What was one of your favorite Christmas gifts that you received as a kid? Was there one thing that still stands out as a vivid memory from your childhood holiday season? Please tell me about it in the comments. And one last thing, if you're a fan of toys, you should know about ToyLanta, the biggest toy show in the southeastern United States, held annually just north of Atlanta, Georgia. Visit ToyLanta.com for more information. As always, thanks for watching.